Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel for another episode of Searching for Sports Cards. If you're new to the channel, I truly appreciate you stopping by. If you're into trading cards and sports cards, this is the place for you. Feel free to subscribe to the channel and stick around for a while. In today's video, I want to talk about fear of missing out, also known as FOMO, if you will. I think this is an incredibly relevant topic right now, and I say that because there seems to be a great deal of FOMO surrounding Paul Skenes in particular. I have said it repeatedly that I'm not a buyer on Paul Skenes. Now, that doesn't mean that I wouldn't hold the Paul Skenes or keep one in my collection, but in terms of going out and buying one, absolutely not. It's a no-go for me. You guys have to decide if it's a go for you or if you're just going to hope to pack pull a few and hold on to them. But if you're a buyer, by all means, collect what you love. But I think when you see the data that I put together here in the little slideshow, you might be a little bit surprised by what we see here. And for the purposes of the slideshow, what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've taken about 8 rookie cards, guys that are generational talents, undisputable generational talents, one who could be a Hall of Famer but is probably not going to make it. He's more of a cautionary tale of what could have been. And we're going to look at some recent sales on those guys. We're going to look at raw card data. We're going to look at PSA 10 sales, and we're going to look at the population counts. I think anytime we look at a PSA 10 or an SGC 10, population count matters, right? That determines the scarcity of the card. So, without any more rambling on from me, let's get into the slideshow. Let's take a look at these cards that I've kind of handpicked for this video, and I think you're going to be surprised by the data and what it leads us to. Let's take a look. First up, we're going to look at Hall of Famer Randy Johnson. For $2.64, you can own this Hall of Famer's rookie card in pretty good condition. In a graded copy, $102.50 for a PSA 10 with a pop count of 5,356. Pedro Martinez is perhaps the best buy of any Hall of Fame pitcher of all time. $1.99 for a raw Pedro card. Not too shabby. In a PSA 10, you can have this one for around $30 and it only has 310 copies out there. So for a low pop count of a Hall of Famer, $30, not too bad. Verlander, $3.52 will get you one in a raw form. That one looks pretty good to me. In a PSA 10, you can expect to pay around $50 to $60 with a pop count of 1,607. Next up, we're going to take a look at Clayton Kershaw. This one's tough to find in raw condition, $51.69. You're going to pay pretty good for this one. PSA 10, this one's holding some value too. $392.85 was the last sale with a pop count of 1,395. Now here's our cautionary tale. Jacob deGrom. This guy should have been a Hall of Famer, but injury derailed him. You can get him in raw form for $8 on average. That one's in pretty good shape. PSA 10, $34.99 with a pop count of 978. Not too bad. Now let's look at some hitters. Ken Griffey Jr., the most iconic card of my childhood, $52 for this one, and it doesn't even look to be centered all that well. This is a very heavily graded card, and a PSA 10 is going to cost you $2,100 on average with a pop count of 4,177. The 9 count is over 10,000. Pujols, tough to find in raw form. That one you're going to pay for, $58 to get one in decent condition raw, if you can find one. In a PSA 10, you can expect to pay around $1,000 to $1,200, and it's got a very low pop count of 264. You're just not going to see a lot of them. Lastly, we're going to look at Mike Trout, $201 in its raw form, and they're still selling really well despite all of his injuries, and they're hard to come by in raw form, but in a PSA 10, with a pop count of 6,532 cards, you're going to expect to pay right around $1,000 for a Mike Trout card. Well, there you have it, guys. I think the data pretty well supports my stance on pitchers not being great long-term investments. Now, again, don't use this information to deter yourself from collecting a pitcher. If you pack pull some and want to build a PC around that person, please do. Collect what you love. That's what we're here for. But I'm also here to spread a little bit of insight on how I do things and maybe help you guys out along the way. If you're enjoying the content, please leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you on the next rip.